Oh, Mario. Yeah, Peachy's got it. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for American Lunchbox Podcast! Welcome back, you guys. It was hard for us to get through that first intro there. Chris gave us the countdown, but he laughed his way all the way through it. But this is episode 22, you guys. Episode 22 of American Lunchbox Podcast. We're so glad that you are here with us today. We're going to go through a good show today. We ask, of course, that if you're listening for the first time, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you're listening and you're coming back from last week and the week before and the week before, thank you for your support. And please make sure you share and tell a friend about the show. Okay? Thank you guys so much. All right. Now we got that out of the way. Tim, Chris, how are you guys doing over there?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing good.
Silence over there.
Early.
Okay,
it's an early morning podcast. We're not quite awake. We're not quite alert. I don't have my coffee. Mr. Battle doesn't have his brown something or another.
Yeah, it's one of those early morning calls there. The sun is out here on the West Coast, but we're here today to give you guys what you need. Chris, Tim, how was your week this week? What's going on with you this week?
It's pretty good. I mean, it's we got some good news. My wife is a well, we'll call a frontline worker. She works in a grocery store, so half her store was exposed to COVID. So she got tested this week, and it came up negative. So that's a good thing. We were a little worried about that, so that's a good thing.
Well, it's almost Christmas time. It's a weekend before Christmas. How's this COVID thing gotten to you guys? For Christmas. What's going on with you guys for Christmas this year?
Real quick, I took a test as well, the antibody test.
Oh.
And it came back negative. So weirdly, I was hoping for it to come back positive, because that would have meant I already had COVID. But that's so weird to want positive results.
It is. Why would you
want?
That's
where the situation I guess we're in.
Yeah, but Chris, tell us why would you want to have the COVID? Why would you want to be positive?
No, the antibody test.
Oh, the antibody test, not the actual.
The antibody test means,
okay.
Theoretically, it means you're immune. So I just pictured this situation in which I got a positive test, and then I frolicked and went wherever I wanted, and gave someone a hug and said, "Don't worry, I'm positive."
Not how that works,
I see what you're saying. Oh, well, and thus it didn't work because it came negative. Is that right?
Yeah. So then I'm like, I'm vulnerable. Oh, no.
Yes, you are. Exactly. Tim, what are you guys doing for Christmas over there? And if you're doing anything, how's that working for you guys for this COVID Christmas?
I think we're going to have something of a virtual Christmas. My family and friends might just, come over by Skype, and we'll just sit there, just have a little chit chat. And I think we're going to have a couple of people come over, but it's supposed to be really light. Hello, goodbye. And that's about it. Exchange some gifts and be done.
Kind of roll through Christmas, huh?
Yeah, basically. Drive-by Christmas.
Drive-by Christmas with no Uzis and guns. That's where I come from. You see, but yeah, that sounds like COVID Christmas. What about you, Chris? Well, now we know that you're not going to be going back east, but were you able to tell your people and all your friends, and how was the response and all of that stuff for you, man? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, the doctor essentially, I kind of briefly mentioned it last week, but. There's many factors as to why I chose not to do it. Cancel the ticket. Sucks because I really wanted to see everyone. And before COVID started, I had been gone for a long time. So I had planned last May to really go home and really just spend time with people. And it didn't happen. It got punted. And it was like a longing to see everyone. But unfortunately, I think it was for the best to punt again. The doctor did clear me of my other issues, but when I told him I was traveling, he went, "Don't do it." And I was like, what? I already got the ticket. He's like, say you're sick. Say you have a headache. I'm like, but that's not true. And then he walked out the door, because the end of the visit, and then he looked back at me and he went, "Good luck."
Wow.
And then he walked out. Just by planning the trip, it was so much of a headache, so many hoops to jump through, especially in New York. The restrictions are ridiculous. If you do this, you get fined. If you don't do this, you get fined. You got to go on this day for this test. Oh, God. I mean, and then there's the fact that you don't want to get people sick, right? And on the East Coast, especially where I'm from, it's tight. Like, to believe that I'd be properly social distanced and everything would be a complete fantasy. And it's one that made sense a month out, but, a couple days out when the cases were skyrocketing. And, one thing also is that I thought half the people would say, "No, I'm not going to meet you. I'm not going to be willing to meet you," because I know this is kind of like a half and half issue. But the weird thing was a lot of people said yes to meet. So in the back of my mind, I was like, what if they're uncomfortable but meeting anyway? You know what I'm saying?
Right. So what you're saying is that when you talk to your family and friends, they agreed that when you got there, that you guys would visit them in their homes or meet with them. And
yeah. And if it's cold outside, that means you're going to be indoors. And then if there's no even outdoor dining, or if there's no even indoor dining, or whatever the hell the thing is at this point, then you're locked into someone's house. And you could say that you're going to show up after not seeing them for years and then demand that they stay 6 feet away from you. It just doesn't make any sense. So, sadly, I've chosen to not see everyone, but I don't know. I feel so much worse, I guess, if I got someone sick. So I kind of punked out. But whatever. Listen,
I don't think that's punking at all. I think that's a responsible thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do as well, considering what we're all going through and where we're going with this thing. It would be horrible for you to get sick, but also too getting your family and sick and quarantining. And I just think it's the responsible thing to do. Much like what I've decided to is just to basically bunker down here, visit very few people. I had plans as well to go out of town, and decided that it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. And it's making for a very interesting Christmas, but it's the COVID Christmas. What do we expect? What do we expect? And the goal here is...
A buddy of mine had a good point. He's not seeing his mom or dad. They were a little upset, and he said, "I'd rather see you every year going forward than just this year." So it might sound like cliche at this point, but just the weird reality we're in.
Yeah.
Can I be the Iceman here for a second?
Absolutely, Iceman. Go ahead.
I've never really been a big fan of Christmas, quite honestly. I mean, maybe when I was a kid, that was about it. But quite honestly, I mean, part of me, I'm like, nobody wants anything for Christmas. Everybody's, social distancing. Nobody wants to come over. I'm like, all right, great. Doesn't bother me. Fucking bah humbug, man. I'm all for that.
The Scrooge.
I'm totally a Scrooge.
The Iceman is not surprisingly the Scrooge. Mm-hmm. Who would have thunk it, right? Of course. The Iceman is the Scrooge. It's just fuck Christmas, basically. I hear you. There's nothing wrong with that, brother. I get it, man. I get it. It actually falls right down your will well. You're saying, perfect. Right on. Thumbs
no one's
up.
coming over. I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean. I don't have to... All right. Oh, darn. Boo-hoo. All right.
Well, that's an interesting point. I mean, the holidays are supposed to be stress-free in terms of how they're presented on a postcard, but sometimes they're stressful.
Yep.
And if you have different places to go, one place or two places a day for 2 days, it's ideally we like to say Christmas morning you wake up and then there's this hallmark version of what Christmas is. But the reality is you're schlepping from place to place. It's a pretty big coordination issue.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
For
especially if you're married and Mr. Battle, I'm sure you know about this back in the day is, you got two Christmases. You got to spend it with your family. You got to spend it with your wife's family. You got to spend it, all these social obligations that come with it. And so, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I miss my family. I haven't seen them in, almost a year now. And so, I mean, so some of that is kind of sad. Actually, my wife actually gave me permission if I wanted to, drive out to the where my folks live and go say hi to them, like from a car, from a distance, just to say hi since I haven't gotten to see them. And I was actually kind of thinking about doing that because it's they're getting up there in age, and you just never know.
You haven't
Yeah.
seen anyone from your family for a year?
I saw my brother about a month ago or so. He came out,
Okay.
but we had to really social distance, and we were taking a lot of precautions because he's got a toddler, and so we were sitting there. I mean, it's like we were social distancing, but even after the visit, we were sitting there just kind of thinking, oh, maybe we took a little bit too much of a risk. Maybe we were, I was in his car because he came out. We went out to Randy's Donuts because I've never been and he'd never been, and it's like, all right, something kind of fun and stupid to do. And we were sitting there just eating donuts and coffee in the car, and we're like, were we a little too close? Were we, we were in a confined space? Do we have to worry about, contracting COVID? But no, everything was fine. But
Wow.
I guess I'm just so paranoid because I'm always hearing about stories in the media about, somebody had a party or somebody had something, and now 5 out of 6 people that joined now have COVID. So yeah, afterwards I was like, really kind of little paranoid about it.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is you plan to social distance with someone the whole time. The reality is the first hour everyone's wearing masks, and the second hour everyone's guilty that they're not, as George was saying, and then here we are. Well, I
And
am
about
I
it,
am glad I got
and
some.
yeah.
I did get in the mail some holiday cookies from my mom. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom. That's awesome, man. Be sure to
Breakfast
pass
of
those.
Champions.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, guys, uh, as we go into what typically is a celebration, this show, it does not reek celebration at all because of obviously where we've come from. And, even though we want to send out a certain amount of cheer to all of our listeners and fans and anyone who may be listening to this, we do want to lend a simple note of hope that, this is just where we are. It's not going to be where we're going to end up. We're going to continue to move forward in this. And in 52 weeks, when we're having our 77th show, we're going to be looking back at this and saying, hey, you know what? We made it through this. And that is the goal, guys. And that is the message that we need to send to our families and friends, not to give up hope. And this is not a kumbaya moment. This is a reality check. We've made it through bigger and worse things than this, and we will continue to do it not only as individuals, Americans, but as the human race. We will get through this. So, this week was a tough week for me, guys. I must admit. And let me just set this all up a little bit so that everyone can kind of get an idea of how this thing kind of played out for me. Over the last week or so, I have somehow used health insurance, car insurance, semi-life insurance, dental insurance. Over the last 7 days, I've been inundated with event after event after event that has just tested all of what I just mentioned. Now, because it involves family, I don't want to put everything out there. So I'm just only going to talk about one particular thing that happened this week. Okay. For people who know what my situation is, I'm going to get a little personal here because it needs to be a part of the story. So I'm going to kind of open up behind the curtain, if you will. Okay. So I have a place up in Glendora, okay, up in the unincorporated area, which basically puts my house in the National Angeles Forest, literally. We have bears, we have mountain lions, we have coyotes. We're literally on a mountain, okay? And in that particular side of the mountain, like I said, it's unincorporated. That means that the property is owned by the federal government. Now, what does that really mean? That means that when it comes to law enforcement or when it comes to certain resources, we can't call the city. We have to call the county. We have to call the county, and they'll send out, like the county sheriffs will come versus Glendale PD, or the county fire department will come versus, so the resources become an issue, and obviously for tax purposes and stuff like that. Now, we have, in that particular community, there are only 4 houses in my area, only 4 houses, and we all have a portion of the mountain, okay? I could see each house. We're not far in distance, but I can see each house from one part of my property. I can see each house very clearly, and they can see ours as well. So I'm setting this up so you can kind of get an idea of how this thing looks. Now, I'm sitting here down in Los Angeles, and I'm in downtown, and I have an office here where I do business, and I'm, currently here now, working. And on last Friday, I get a call from my daughter early in the morning. We have this tradition where she calls me in the morning right before school. We FaceTime, and I've been saying these things since, giving her the pump up and the pep, telling she's going to have a great day. And we've been doing this since she was in the 4th grade, and now she's in the 9th grade. And so this is something that we always do. But I didn't get a call that particular morning, but she was doing finals, so I didn't worry about it. So about 11 o'clock, she gives me a call, right? She gives me a call. And so I pick up the phone saying, why didn't you call me? And I don't hear anything. I call out her name. I said, Layla, what's going on? And all I hear is, Dad, they got her. And I'm saying, what is going on? What are you talking about? And now I'm just trying to understand the level of calmness so I can understand what she's saying. Well, let's take it back. So imagine I'm in the house now, and this call is happening, and I'm going to tell you all what happened. We're sitting in the house. I'm not there, but I'm going to tell it like I'm sitting. And my daughter is taking her final or what have you. Her mother is outside and, just enjoying the sun. And my dog is sleeping on the porch. And because the property is set on a mountain, it has both an entrance from the back of the mountain and what would be the front of the mountain coming up the mountain, so you could park on the property. So as you were sitting there, it's extremely quiet. And what happened is that we all have pets in this area, okay? But the property above mine, in front, has 5 dogs. Now, we've had history with these dogs because there's the kind of dogs that are much like, if you ever watched the Game of Thrones, those wolf type dogs, they're huge, right? Very intelligent dogs, right? There are 4 of them up there. There are 3 of them, and then there's a couple of mutts. Well, 2 of those dogs, all right, got out and circled around the property, around the upper property, and came down below the other property. And while my dog was sleeping there, Pawla, they basically mauled her to death. right there on the property. It just happened. There was nothing that anybody could have done. It just happened. They just started to just gnaw in on her. And at that point on the phone call, is what you remember, is when it was happening. So there was that brief pause was the shock, but the wherewithal to say, this is happening. So the phone now is basically no one on the phone. She's telling me something's happening, but she can't explain it because it is happening. And they're watching this unfold. And her mother comes out, she's already out there, and she starts throwing things at the dog, getting bigger than the dog and just screaming at them. They release her, Pawla, and they run away. But the other one of them came back and started again, and she did it again. Now, the horror of what I am talking about being heard on the phone is different from what I am telling you about. It was horrific. I could not gather myself enough calmly to say what was going on. I had to hear it for myself and then bring myself down to the point where I can help them from afar to understand. I quickly went right into my personal, EMS role. For those of you who don't know, I was a fireman for 3 years. And so I went right, I said, cover the wounds, make sure she's good. Is she breathing? Blah, blah, blah. And my daughter's on the phone talking to me. I'm giving her mother directions. I'm telling her where to go. I'm doing all of this on the phone. And, it's like, is she breathing? Yes, she's breathing. Okay, and then all of a sudden my daughter says, out of the blue, she's up, right? She's up. And so I said, good. So I wrap her up, right? And I'm in the car in 3 minutes. Now, typically that trip will take about an hour. I got there in like 30 minutes because I'm rushing to get there. And by the time I get there, Pawla is gone. She's dead. And I just don't know what to do. Now, for those of you all who are not pet owners or haven't had a pet in your life, let me just tell you that there is an emotion that is no different than losing a family member when you lose a pet. It's no emotion different. It's exactly the same. And when I talk about death, I always talk about it being the other side of the coin of life. It's inevitable. But what always I talk about death is that it's not the fact that when it happens, because it's going to happen, but there's two things that separate death that makes it tragic. It's when it happens, as far as how old, and how it happens, which is the tragic part. If you're 90 years old and you're dying in your sleep, most people would say they lived a great life. Most people. But if you, God forbid, if something happens and you're an infant or a baby or a young man or a young woman and something tragic happens, then it becomes a tragedy. So this, my friends, for me was a tragedy. And for my daughter who cried for 2 days, it's just horrific. And I'm going to be posting some pictures of Pawla on our Instagram. I mean, just this year, she tried to fight a bear, this dog. And by the way, my friends, this is a little Chihuahua. It's a little Chihuahua. I have video of her, like when bears come, she'll go out, she'll be at the door trying to, brave dog, man. And it's like, for me, I was opposed to having an animal because of the cleanliness of it. But of course, after you get the pet, I spoiled her, I loved her, and but the story is not over. Because what do you do next? And this part of the story is what's most important. I gave you all the gist of the story in regards to how it happened, but I know people are going to ask, well, George, what about those dogs, right? Because the dogs so neatly put themselves back in their kennel after the damage was done. Smart dogs. So I'm back there now. I'm holding my dog. I take her for her last walk. I hold her. She's bleeding everywhere. I take her for her last walk, and I take her to the neighbor's house where the dogs live because I wanted them to see my dead dog. No one was home. No one was home. So I took Pawla and I took her around and I walked her up and down the mountain like we usually would do. And I brought her back. And then it all kicked in. What do I do next? I can't bring her back. My daughter is crying, it's like no tomorrow. But what do I do next? I call the police. I call animal enforcement, and this is where the unincorporated part comes in, because who came was the county police and the county folks, and I filled out a report. They took pictures of the body. They took pictures of the scene, blood everywhere. All of what I could do. I explained to them, what happened. The neighbors. I showed them text messages and conversations that I had with the neighbors about their dogs getting out on previous occasions, but I was there at that time. I texted the owner telling her, hey, this is what's going on. No response. I sent her pictures, no response. Because it's a small community, they have this little website that they use in order for us to tell them when bears are coming or when mountain lions. But I've never really subscribed because we were all so close in proximity that we could basically holler up, hey, bear here or not. But I reached out to my neighbor. I reached out to my other neighbor and I explained to him what happened. And he called back, because I see him often. He called back and he's like, Battle, what happened? And I explained to him what happened. And then he gave me this bit of information, which may or may not be a factor. He said, Battle, I was at the, he let me get everything out. And he said, Battle, you know what? I was at the mailbox, because our mailbox is located at the foot of the mountain. He said, I was at the mailbox, and this may be relevant to the story or not, but I was at the mailbox and I saw the son of the owner there. And I didn't even recognize because I hadn't seen him in a long time. But I stopped there and we talked for a second. And he told me that his mother had passed away 3 months earlier. So I said, wait, the woman who owned the house passed away? And he said, yeah. So I've been texting a dead woman, basically? He said, yes. You've been texting a dead woman. So I'm like, oh shit. Now I'm like, I feel horrible because I now have not been communicating with them well enough to know that they've had a tragedy. This is like an emotional roller coaster. I mean, I'm a spiritual person, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a spiritual person, but I'm like, oh shit. So now I'm cross. I got a dissonance here. I got a dead dog, and now I found I have a dead neighbor. But that may have been some of the reason why the dog was getting out, because maybe they had not been attended to. I don't know the answer to this. So now I'm confused about what action, because now, you in the grief process, you go from remorse, and now I'm in anger right now, by the way. For those of you all who know, I'm in the anger mode. I want to be upset. I filled out a police report. I want to be angry. My dog is dead. But now I have to truncate those feelings and put other feelings. So now I explain this to my family. And now we deal with, of course, what next for Pawla. We do a memorial for her, and we start with the processes of releasing her physical and allowing her spiritual to move forward in her next journey. Later on that evening, I returned back downtown. About 8 o'clock, I get a text message from who would be the husband saying, I'm so sorry. I just picked up my wife's phone and saw this message. I apologize. I'm not even in the city. I'm traveling, but I will be there. I apologize. The text message was beautiful. I've never met this person personally, by the way. I've only ever dealt with the wife. So it puts me in a very awkward situation because I want justice for Pawla because she didn't deserve this. This is 2020, man. And I'm not the one to blame the year because there are a lot of good things that happened during this year. But I have experienced quite a bit of death in 2020, whether it be from family members, whether it be from what we're going through, and then hearing about death from other friends and family as well. It has been a tough year. And to end it like this, for me, it's horrible, guys. It's horrible. My daughter, again, will not stop crying, because we got this dog when she was 10 days old. 10 days. And they practically grew up together. They slept together. Pawla was my daughter's best friend, as she called it. And so episode 22, I'm dedicating to Pawla. And to all the folks out there who have animals, I know, Chris, you've had a dog before, and I know, Tim, you got Duke over there and the posse. You all know, and for all those other people out there who have animals, I know you all understand where my pain lies. And I'm hoping that we find the justice for Pawla, and I'm hoping that, of course, my family moves forward with this, but it's just another notch in the belt for 2020 for us. I usually don't do this. I usually don't talk about these. This is the first time I've talked about this to anyone since it's happened. It's not something I usually do when it comes to these types of things. I'm usually the listener, but I thank you guys, and I thank my fans, and I thank this platform for allowing me to get this out. And it's not to take anything from what anybody else is experiencing. I know it's been hard for all of us, but I just wanted to just tell you guys what happened, and that, along with all the other stuff that happened this week. I can definitely wanted to talk to you guys about that. So, Chris, Tim, thank you guys so much for listening. We're going to go ahead and end this show. We want to go do some shout outs.
Can I just add a little something?
Absolutely.
I had a childhood dog too. Similar situation. I don't have a young childhood memory where the dog wasn't there. So I think they probably got the dog around the same time I came around. And when the dog died of cancer when I was, 13. And man, that last walk was sad. It was a smart dog. It was kind of like a Lassie type dog, mutt breed. She was called Cider. And it's the weird thing. I've only had this sort of sensation with like one random family member that passed. But I know it's an irrational thought, but like I can't tell you what I wouldn't give to spend like a day with that dog. Like if there was some way to, like how much of my personal savings would I just give away to spend a day with that dog?
Yeah.
Probably be willing to spend a good amount of it. I love dogs. Don't like wolf dogs. So I don't know if those dogs were half and half type dogs, but I'll roll around on the floor playing with a dog. But if the dog is even half wolf or part wolf, I want nothing to do with the dog.
Yeah.
They just don't have the eye contact that a dog does. The instincts are not what a dog is. Some people think it's cute. I don't think it's cute at all. I don't know what the situation is of your neighbors. I'm not sure what the breeding is, but yeah, wolf is not a dog. So
Yeah.
I love dogs, but I don't trick myself to think that a wolf dog is a dog. I consider it more a wolf.
Yeah, and I'll post some pictures of those dogs too, because I got some of those pictures too, just to make sure that people see what I'm dealing with here.
Well, and Mr. Battle, I can definitely sympathize with you. I mean, I've never really been much of a dog owner, growing up and working in the entertainment industry. Never really had time for a dog, and it wasn't until I got married that I got to discover the joys and trials and tribulations of owning a dog. And they said, and one of them's barking up right now. They find a way of digging into your heart there. It's like you're kind of emotionally somewhat prepared for it a little bit, because they don't live as long, obviously, as humans do. But one of my dogs was had to spend a few days at the vet because he wasn't feeling really well, and there was a little thought that we might lose him, and because maybe he had something in his stomach, or he had a virus or something, and it was like all of a sudden it hit you. You're like, oh my god, I wasn't ready for that. He's a 3-month-old puppy. I was not ready for that at all. And luckily he was fine. But they definitely find a way to dig into your heart there. A similar story happened to my parents and their dog. My mom was out walking her little terrier, and one of the neighbors' dogs got out. I think it was not an attack breed, but it was either a pit bull or a German Shepherd, one of those. But he got out of his kennel, got out of his gate, and just went after the little terrier and mauled her, and they had to put her down. And my mom is 65, 70, so she wasn't in any position to fend off the dog or anything. But but it was what it was, and even it was funny, or not funny, but it was just kind of sad. It was like my dad who complained about having to walk the dog every single day. My dad's kind of a curmudgeon, and he complained about having to walk her all the time, and when they had to put her down, all of a sudden he balled up, and he sits there all the time saying, "Oh, I miss her. I really like taking her for walks. It was just kind of our time." And it was just like, I'm just hearing this, and I'm just like, who are you and what have you done with my dad? It's just, it was just really weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I said, the story definitely sounds somewhat similar to my parents. They called the cops and everything, and I don't think they could do anything, and maybe they got a citation. That was about it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it does happen, and it's sad and it's hard, but I'm sure it's kind of a lesson that people have to learn is, death is a part of life, and that's
right.
Something that's going to happen. It's sad. You'll mourn for a few weeks, and I hear you. It is. I've never had children, so I can't say that it's like losing a child, but it's definitely pretty emotional. That's for sure. So
that's right.
My sympathies for you, and definitely sorry for your loss.
Yeah, sorry too. And it's a weird situation because you can't exactly bring a pack of dogs up on trial for murder.
Yeah.
We always hear that humans are the only ones that kill people, but now I'm kind of shocked to hear both of these stories. It sounds like dogs do some pretty bad shit too.
Yeah, and I'll let you know personally I don't know if we'll talk about this again on the show, but I'll definitely keep you guys posted on how we'll move forward with this in regards to the conversations and where we go with this. But Pawla was a good dog, and when I tell you all that she really meant a lot to me, I'm telling you, man, she really did, and she did not deserve this. So, any shout outs for the week, guys? How do you guys feeling? What's going on with you, Chris? Any shout outs for the week?
Yeah, I'll try to lighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah, go for it, man. Go for it.
Talking about
let me wipe these teary eyes, man. Go ahead.
talking about Christmas. One of the hottest Christmas gifts the whole time I've ever been alive is stuff from Nintendo. Nintendo.
Oh, that's how you started the show. You started the show with some Nintendo.
Nintendo partnered with fascinating company, just the way that they approach things. Try to always think differently than their competitors. And they also have Miyamoto, who's Shigeru Miyamoto, creator of Mario, Donkey Kong, Zelda, creative genius, kind of like the George Lucas, Steven Spielberg of Japan. Except while Steven Spielberg makes movies where you're like from like a childlike point of view to get you have that feeling, Miyamoto kind of lives that. Like his whole world seems to be like wonderment and a childlike wonderment. You'll hear him, and the way his brain connects things are ways that other people's brains don't connect things, and that's how he comes up with some of these ideas. Like now you hear weird stories where like they say, "How'd you come up with that Wii Fit exercise program?" He'll be like, "Well, I really like gardening." He's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But that's how this guy's brain works. And he showed off recently, and he was like totally a kid in a candy store. While doing so, they have at Universal Studios Japan, they opened up Nintendo World, which is like you're walking into a section of the theme park that looks just like, you're inside of Super Mario Brothers. Unsure how this theme park will go, as it, they have the blocks that you got to punch. They have those blocks in the park, which I don't know if that would be good for COVID. I also don't know how well that would fly in America, having a theme park built around punching things. But parents out there, your kids won't be bothering you to go to Japan because guess what? It's coming here. They have plans to open this in Orlando, and here in Hollywood, and in Singapore as well. So I guess my shout out is to the Miyamotos out there who look at the same things we all see and see something a little differently. It just seems if I was like 7 years old, I'd be absolutely bugging the crap out of my parents to go there. Like they would be miserable, and they would say, "Well, that's in Japan. We'll wait and see." But it's apparently coming here, so they got to work out how the COVID stuff works. But it seems like it's going to be a hit.
That's cool. That's cool, man. Well, I've been to Singapore. I've obviously been here in Hollywood. I don't think I'll ever make it to Florida, just for personal reasons.
All right.
And
you're not allowed back? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I may have to. I haven't used it as a hub yet for traveling, but eventually I know I'll have to use it as a hub, and I may just stop in there. But kudos to Nintendo. What's going on with you, Tim? Any shout outs for you today, brother?
Let's see. I don't really have much of a shout outs, I guess. Just shout out to my wife, I think, for really having one hell of a year this year, with being basically a frontline worker, having to sit there and go through multiple COVID tests this year, and luckily she's not contracted anything, which has been great, I think. And unfortunately, I think she did have one casualty this year. Unfortunately, many of the family members are very disappointed about this. Is that she will not be baking her Christmas cookies this year. I know, that's very sad. She usually puts out a really good batch of monster cookies and peanut butter cookies and molasses cookies, but sadly she just does not have enough time, given the current situation. So it's a casualty. I know.
Tim, with my work, if someone get COVID, the office kind of clears out for a week or two. People try to work from home, but I mean, if you're talking about a business that's essential, well, what happens? If one person gets COVID, they're not sending everyone home from the supermarket.
Yeah, if somebody gets it or test positive or whatever, anybody who was in contact with them, they all get sent home, and they can't come back until they get tested.
So they hire scabs or something?
No, well they'll bring in temps from other stores, I guess.
Okay. Oh, so then you're telling this guy, hey, you need to go here because COVID is there?
Basically, yeah. It's kind of a weird thing. Or actually, I think they've actually been reducing hours or shutting down stores because of it. because they say, hey, we just don't have enough people to cover it, or we don't, if half the management's out or half the cashiers are out, it's like, well, sorry, can't ring anybody up. We have, it's only, we can't afford to have everyone working 16-hour days. It's just not really possible. So, that's just the reality. It's the more you're exposed to people, the more the more it increases your chance of getting it. And right now, California, unfortunately, is the epicenter of COVID. I mean, more people are getting infected daily with this. So it is a reality.
Well, this was a wonderful Christmas show.
Wasn't it though? I know.
Hey, listen, blame it on Battle. What all of his somber moods and Tim and Chris, you guys have given us probably the best Christmas celebration show. And by the way, happy Hanukkah out there for all those my Jewish brothers and sisters out there too. And for those of you all who will be participating in Kwanzaa, we'll have a show before Kwanzaa more than likely. Oh no, actually. Yeah, we'll have a show during Kwanzaa, so I'll be sure to mention that in our next show. But this is, by the way, the Christmas show. For those of you all who are listening, this is the Christmas show. This is not. This is a
to
celebration.
Reinforce how badly we just screwed that up. This was the Christmas show.
This was the Christmas show. Episode 22 is the Christmas show. So when you're looking for the show, this is the one. But you guys,
Chris, what are you thinking about for a thumbnail for this episode? You got a Christmas tree and a dead puppy in a box. I mean,
maybe George sitting in a chair in a robe and says with a pipe, and it says Battle's wonderful Christmas story.
There you go. We'll have something for it though. Shout outs, of course, to Layla and my family, and shout out
sorry
to all,
guys. Sorry everyone out from George's family. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Shout out to them, and shout out to all the folks out there, all of our listeners for hanging in there with us as we go into the New Year's. We are going to be having some changes. Look forward for you guys to let us know what you think about those. But again, make sure you guys always, of course, hit the subscribe button, hit the download button, and come back and see us, guys.
George, you got to find out right away who let the dogs out.
Too soon.
Sorry. This dude right here, man. Give me a minute, man.
Sorry.
Oh, see, this is what friends are for. See, this is the kind of friendship I have.
It's frenemies.
Right?
It's frenemies, man.
Frenemies, man. In the words of Clarence Patterson, my dear old dad, Pop, whom I love, may he rest in peace, you guys. Remember, don't ever let the times change the lines in your smile. Peace.
Peace.